Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I'm going to use a violet colour as my base colour. I've got a really interesting colour palette that I'm going to show you shortly. But today I'm working on a smaller canvas, a 12 by 12 inch, and I'm going to do a Dutch pour. I'm really excited to do this. I'm just going to have a little bit of fun and I can't wait for you to see what we can create. So let's go. So here's my canvas. I've already painted the edges and the sides. This is the consistency of my paint. Today I am using a pouring medium. I usually just do paint on water with a Dutch pour. But because I've got these other colours here that I'm using from previous creations that are mixed with a pouring medium, I needed to ensure that my base colour was also mixed with a pouring medium to ensure that the consistencies were the same. So I've got a violet colour by Amsterdam. That's going to be my base colour. And then I've got these 5 colours. I've got a Van Dyke brown. Again, I will list all the colours in the description box below. I've got a Pearl Marmalade by Arteza. Looks a bit like copper. I've got a Deep Pearl Brown by Arteza. I've then got an Iridescent Blue Black by Pebeo. And then a Blue Turquoise. So I'm going to use all of those colours on this canvas. So first of all, this is about ensuring you've got a good, consistent layer on your canvas. I would say the base coat is always really important to ensure you've got good flow, good coverage and consistent coverage. So I always puddle my paints directly in the centre of the canvas and then blow the paints from the middle to the outer edge. And I do that with the hairdryer on a cool setting and on the lowest setting. I always use my torch to pop any air bubbles because the air bubbles are present because I've just mixed my paints up. So I'm going to puddle the paints in this corner here and then blow the paints out to the opposite direction. So I'm just going to take a colour at a time, place some of that colour on top of the base colour and then blow it out. One thing that you should always remember is the paints when wet might dry darker. So the colour that you actually see on your canvas now, so for example, I know this base coat is going to dry darker than it is when it's wet. So bear that in mind when you're putting a colour palette together. And sometimes it's good just to test out those colours on a canvas or on a piece of paper to see the tone as it dries, because that will help you create the overall look. So as I said, with this, I'm using quite dark colours anyway, but I know my base colour will also be quite dark when it dries. I've now popped all my bubbles and I'm going to blow the paint out in that one direction across the canvas. And when I'm doing this, I really want to think about where the paint goes in terms of how much paint coverage I want balanced with the negative space. So I want to ensure that the negative space actually plays a really big part here, because when you've got some negative space, it can really help the creation that you make on top, the pattern or the design that you make on top, really stand out and pop. So the actual negative space plays a really important part in the overall composition of a design. Remember, it's okay to stop, stand back and have an overall look. I want to tweak this area just here. And I've noticed that area needs tweaking because I've allowed myself to stop within my creation process and have a good look at the overall design by just pausing for a second and stepping back. So I'm going to tweak it a few more times because I just don't feel that this corner here is right. So I'm just blowing it out a little bit more. And yeah, I think I'm happy with that. And I'm excited to see how this dries. I'm going to use my torch one more time just to pop any of those excess air bubbles that have appeared. I always remove the drips from the bottom of the canvas because that helps minimise the design on top moving any more. By removing those drips, minimises any further movement. So I always recommend you removing those drips before you place your canvas in your drying area. I'm going to take you in now for a closer look at the wet version so you can see how some of those colours have infused together and how some other tones of those same colours have been made with the infusion of the colour palette. If you're enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate you giving it a like and a thumbs up. By liking my video helps me reach further people on YouTube that might also be interested in the art form that I do. Are you ready to see the dry version? Well, let me show you. Here it is fully dry, and I just love that turquoise, how it pops through. It's quite a dark day, so my lighting isn't brilliant, but I hope you can see some of those other tones that have been created with the infusion of those colours. This isn't yet varnished. I've been saying that a lot recently. Whilst it's kind of wet and damp here in the UK, I don't varnish any of my pieces because I like to do all of that outside in the open air to minimise any fumes. So I'm going to varnish this at a later date. Check out all my other social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram because I do post the final pieces there too. Thank you so much and I'll see you soon. Bye.